In my last video, we talked about why exactly a gig worker needs to make sure that they have a budget in place and everything because of all the different things it has to do with being a gig worker, especially with different income every month as well as expenses. This episode, we're going to dive in and exactly look at budgets and different software that we can use in order to help us to ensure that we're doing it correctly and are set up for the best possible future. So let's dive in. Hi, I'm Tyler from the RideShare Guy. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at budgets, exactly how to make them, where we can make them for free, and if you want to get a little bit more fancy, you can actually pay services. But let's dive in and look at the very first, easiest way, which is going to be a just regular Google Doc. Everybody has access to this, so let's just take a look at one. I created a couple of mock ones, so we'll take a look. All right, so here we have just a basic budget with all the information in it, a lot of the things that we need. These numbers are kind of based on average, kind of based on things in my own experience of what of different budgets. Now, the numbers may be too high for you, or they may be too low, depending on where you live and your expenses. But you have the basic things: rent, renters and homeowners insurance. You have auto insurance, health insurance, medical, life insurance, electric, water, sanitation, groceries, car payments, and car maintenance and gasoline. So these numbers, the car payment is about the same as everyone else. We're not going to get a better deal or pay more for a car payment as gig workers than regular people who aren't gig workers, who aren't driving their car. But we will spend more on car maintenance and gasoline. So for some people, they're going to look at a budget. Their gas budget's going to be very, very low, especially if they have like a Prius or something where they don't spend much. They're filling up their gas tank once a month. Even if you have a Prius as a gig worker, odds are you're filling up your gas tank several times a week, especially if you're doing it full time. So these numbers are going to be higher. Car maintenance, even if you're not regularly spending $300 a month, maybe you're just getting an oil change done every month, but you want to save money and have like a car maintenance account where you're putting that money into. That way, when you need the new tires, you need the new brakes or anything, you've got that money ready. So that's why when you're creating the budget, always make it so that you have that amount going into an account or going somewhere or just being set aside mentally. I don't recommend that unless you're very disciplined. I recommend having an actual separate account just for car maintenance. But you want to make sure that you have something set aside so that when that time comes, you are able to pay for and take care of everything right away. So $300 may seem like a lot for some people for car maintenance a month. It may seem like a lot less, but when you factor in everything that you're going to spend for the year, you want to be saving, I would say, at least that, especially if you're doing this full time, because that will put a lot of wear and tear in your vehicle. And so you want to make sure you have some. So again, these numbers, they're not hard and fast rules. They're just kind of ideas of where to get started with a budget. And that's one that I want to make sure we talked about because we want to make sure we have that. Now, when it comes to something such as savings we have here, again, as a gig worker, you don't have retirement accounts. You don't have things set up to automatically save for you. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that you're saving some money, putting it aside, make it a regular expense. Because that way you are going to be out there, you're going to see it, it's going to be something that you regularly pay, and you're not going to be wondering 10 years, how come I don't have any money saved up? All right, so here we have another budget. This is the income. So we had the last one, the expenses. Every budget must include not just the expenses of what's going out, but you must keep track of what's coming in. So here is another mock-up of, this is someone who's doing this part-time. The gig worker is part-time. They have a regular job that covers a lot of their expenses. They just need a little bit more in order to pay extra, pay down debt. Maybe they need that extra in order to pay their bills, whatever the case may be, but they're doing it part-time. So one of the things you'll notice is that the job, the income stays the same, obviously, because typically we all work about the same amount every week. The regular 40, 9-to-5 job, we get the same amount of money every 2 weeks or every week. So that doesn't typically change. But what will change, as you notice here, is the gig work. So some months you're going to make less than others. Some you're going to make a lot more. Notice I put in December almost double what you make almost every month because that's a busier month. And again, these are mock numbers, so you can take that information, and rather than say, hey, I'm going to make $2,500 a month, you take that 14,200, you divide it by 12, you get the average. So now you know that you're making a little over 1,000 a month on average. And so you factor that into your income, you're able to make that budget a lot better, and more accurate. So it helps a lot more, especially because at December you get that nice, huge amount of money. Then you go into January already ahead, because typically you can make double in December what you're making in regular months, especially if you're doing it part time. You could just kick it up a little bit, or even doing the same amount of hours, you're typically going to make more. So you're able to have that nice large chunk of change going into January, where you're able to pay extra and have that little buffer, which I highly recommend having in any checking account or savings account as a nice buffer just in case something happens. Then we have the full-time worker. Again, notice that there's huge differences in the amount of money that you're going to make each month. Now, again, these aren't real numbers there, but we've talked to a lot of drivers, we've seen a lot of statistics, and this is about what you would get driving full-time, 45 hours a week. Some drivers are driving 55, 60 hours a week. They're making a lot more. Some markets are driving 30 to 40 hours and making this or more. So though this isn't really a absolute 100% real numbers that we're getting, these are realistic that you can actually make this in a month. But again, notice that the amount of money you make is going to differ between the months. And so you want to make sure that you're getting that average when you're deciding on the budget and creating that budget in the first place, because with that, you're going to ensure that your income and expenses are within the same range and that you're not overspending based on your income. So we took a look at ways that we're able to make a budget using Google Docs, so a free service, but there's a lot of other free services out there that allow you to make a budget or to see what your budget looks like, or keep track of your net worth, which is something I really like to do. So let's take a look. We're going to take a look at 3 different services or software web pages that allow you to be able to track your net worth and create a budget. So let's get in and talk about each one. All right, so another software or a software that you can use, we're going to talk about 2. The first is Personal Capital. You can log in, sign up, create an account, put your information in, and attach it directly to your accounts. And it actually not only helps you to create a budget, but it'll also keep track of your net worth. So you can put in there your debts, your credit card debt, your car loan. You can put all that in. You can also put investment accounts, 401k accounts, your checking account, and it'll keep track of your net worth over time. Great way to keep track of making sure that your net worth is going on the rise and not the decline. You want to make sure that that's happening. So this is a great software that you can use. Easy to use. You sign up, you give it the information to use your account, and that's it. And then finally, another app I really like. This was actually the first app I ever used back almost 10 years ago now. I can't believe it, but that you use to keep track and create a budget. It's called Mint. You can go into it. It's now owned by Intuit, the same people that own TurboTax, Credit Karma, QuickBooks, things such as that. But you go in, you input your information, you give your banking information and things like that. Then you're able to create a budget. It'll actually track your spending that you've already spent. It'll create charts for you to show you where you're spending. That way, it's a lot easier to track your spending doing that because something's doing it for you. I can't recommend this enough. I used it a long time ago. It really helped me to get things on track. I didn't continue to use it just because everything is on track now. And being honest, my wife does a lot of the budgeting now, and I just kind of, spend money when I'm told I can. But this really helps to get you on the right path, to really show you exactly what you're spending, where you're spending, even if you think, hey, I'm not really spending that much on going out to eat. This showed me that I was spending a lot more on going out to eat than I thought I was. So it's a really great way to get in there and to create that budget. All right, so here we have the Nerd Wallet program. It's a website that you can go to. You don't have to fill out anything. You don't have to give out any personal information. but it's really cool. You can plug in all of your budget information, your income information, and it's going to give you a little information on where you stand, especially when it comes to certain rules. So let's take a look at it. So first, you see here, you can put in check all that apply, college student, parent, homeowner, such and such. Again, you don't really need to check any of that in order to get this done, but you can put it in. Put your monthly wages, again, from that previous budget. When you're taking a look at your monthly wages, you make sure you put the average in, not your best month ever. So you put that in. Then they have the expenses. They have needs, which they have every little thing, and you can leave it zero. Like, for instance, parking and registration fees. There's never going to be any parking registration fees where I live specifically, but other people, I know if you live in a big city, there's definitely going to be parking and registration fees. I mean, we have the registration, we pay that once a year. So typically what I would do, I would figure out how much that is going to be for the year and put a monthly amount to that. So if it's $200 a year, we're going to put, about $20, a little bit more per month in there in order for us to pay that every year. So we have that. Then you have the wants for the month. So things like clothing and jewelry, dining out, meals, special meals at home, movies, all these things. You put that in. Then you have savings and debt repayment, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But you put all of the information, 401k, credit card payments, other investments, all of those things right in there. Now you get down here, which this is my favorite part of the Nerd Wallet app, is the 50-30-20 comparison. So it takes your income and it puts what your amounts should be based off your income. So necessities on the income that I put in there should be $2,600 per month, the 30% for wants, and the 20% savings. Obviously, this is a little off of what we're actually spending, and yours probably will be too. But this gives you a way of figuring out where you stand and where you need to make changes. So, like, if you get there and the necessities are taking everything, maybe we need to lower some necessities. Maybe we need to work on our income and get something else up. Maybe take on more gig work, maybe get a different job, maybe get a promotion at work, whatever the case may be. But we're able to see maybe we can cut back on some of our necessities. Maybe we don't need as good of internet. Maybe we don't need to live where we live. I know it can be hard, but sometimes even moving in order to get a cheaper place, sacrifices in order to be where we are with our budget. If that's not a possibility, increase our income is always the next possibility, which is working more, finding different work, etc. So I also love about the 50-30-20 on the Nerd Wallet here is that they include for savings debt repayment. So they want you to have your budget set up in a way that even if you're not saving anything, you could still be putting money towards debt, and that in their mind considers it as savings, which I agree with, because cutting down your debt massively affects your savings, because that interest rate, especially on credit cards, is going to mess you up when it comes time to get everything taken care of. So highly recommend including debt payment in your budget, especially if you have debt in there, credit card, especially credit card debt, but any debt, absolutely include in your budget and even include it in savings. And then when you get that debt paid off, ensure that that money doesn't go back into wants, doesn't go into needs, but instead goes into savings for the future. So there you have it, some great ways that you can get started budgeting, especially as a gig worker. Make sure that you're getting your income, your expenses exactly right so that you're not overspending, or you know that you need to work more to make more. So those are some great ways. What are some ways that you found to keep track of your budget? What's the simplest, best way that you have found? Please leave a comment below. If you have any questions, let us know. We read every single comment. Please subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. There's new episodes that come out every single week. And please stay safe out there, everyone.